We're going to put onions and this late planting garlic in this section. Onions really benefit from a bed that's quite well prepared. It isn't covered in great big lumps and bumps. And so I'm just scratching over the surface with a fork. I'm not digging it all over, because we try not to dig, as I said, using what's called no dig or no till or low till gardening. So just scratching over the surface, getting rid of the worst of the lumps and bumps, and then we're going to sow the onion sets in here. So, two different schools of thoughts on the onion sets. Some people say you put them right under the ground, other people say you leave them sticking out halfway, and that helps avoid them rotting. We're going to leave them sticking out halfway, which hopefully will avoid them rotting, but also risks the birds kicking them around a little bit more, which can be a bit frustrating. So when they've gone in, you just keep an eye on it. If any have been kicked around and become loose, just plonk them back in again. All we're going to do, here they are, little tiny onions. You just have to imagine how big they're going to be when they're an onion, which is about this big, hopefully. So we'll leave them far enough apart to get to their full fat size and have a bit of space between them as well. And we'll grow them little kind of triangle shapes like this, so that we're making the best use of the space that we've got in this bed. Otherwise we'd have to go a bit further apart like this. So the bottom, you usually see the tiny little roots, so that's the bit that's going to go down, and the pointy bit on the top, that's where it's going to stick up its leaves. So we'll start, we've got our potatoes and our radishes planted over there, so we'll just start plonking them in. Just make a little hole, plonk it in, firm it in, but you can leave that top pointy bit sticking up. We'll go about that far apart. In it goes. Excuse me, worm. And firm it in. I'll lay them out now so you can get a sense of how they're going to be. Okay, so I'm going to get those in a second. In the meantime, quickly show you how the garlic works. So you tend to buy garlic like this, like you do the garlic you eat. It's better usually, I mean, you can try and grow the stuff that you bought from the supermarket, but usually that's been grown in another country that's hotter, and the garlic's adapted to that environment. So it's better to buy garlic for growing from a nursery or online, or from one locally to you if you can get to one in these times. You just break it open, don't have to be too soft about it. All this skin comes off, you can leave it lying around, doesn't do any harm, just rots into the soil and feeds the soil and all the microbes down there. You can see all the bulbs coming off, just the usual ones that you grow, that you cook with, sorry. And then they're basically very, very similar to the onion. You've got the little flat bit at the bottom where the roots are going to come out, you've got the pointy bit on the top where the leaves are going to come out. And again, you can think about what size this garlic is going to get to. It's going to get hopefully to about that sort of size. So we're going to give them plenty of space. We're going to plant them maybe 20 or so centimetres apart, so that they've got plenty of space to grow. These ones you don't leave sticking out of the soil, you put them properly deeply into the soil. So I can find my, this fork will do. We'll start them about here. A hole for them. Because most seeds you plant them about twice the depth that they are. So tiny little seed goes very near the surface because it doesn't have much energy to get itself out of the soil and out into the open air. This is a great big thing full of energy that can go nice and deep into the soil and spread its roots out and get itself up. So we'll stick it in about there. Happy. There it is. And similarly we'll just pop along, plonk them in. Like I say, be careful if you want to grow garlic, make sure you get a variety that is okay to plant now, which is March, This is pretty much the last time that you can grow garlic and only certain varieties. So we'll get all these in and then we'll move on to the next crop.
I've got some mangetout to plant next. Mangetout is literally in French eat everything, which is what we need to do right now. Kids love this, they just pick it, pop it in the mouth, and it's really good for stir fries as well. We don't need to put nets on the canes because these are self-supporting, so they'll just twine their way up, and it's really easy just to get them going. They need full sun, which is why we've chosen this section of the raised bed. We've also left some space the other side of the canes because that will eventually become more shaded because of the mangetout growing here. And we'll plant some lettuce in the shade, which they will really like, because when you plant leaves in the shade, they're like solar panels. They want to capture as much light as possible. So if they're slightly shaded, what will happen with the salad leaves is that they'll grow much bigger than they normally would, which is beneficial for us when we come to eat them. So the mangetout, they will go in now, and they'll start to produce flowers which will then get pollinated, and then you'll get the pods. So we're going to plant these one next to each cane, and then in a couple of weeks I'm going to plant another one by each cane, so that we've got successional crops again, as Neil said before. The more flowers get produced, the more flowers get pollinated, the more pods are available for you to eat. If you keep picking the pods, then the plant will send out more flowers, which means you can keep picking and keep eating. So the more you pick, the more you get. So I'm going to put these in, just going to push these into the soil next to each cane. These are the seeds. There we go, one in there. I'm actually going to put in 2 for now, because sometimes they don't all germinate. Sometimes a mouse might come and get them. So we're just having assurance on each one.
So, as Dina said, we like to garden with nature and work with nature. The more we work in harmony with nature, the more we can create a beneficial relationship where everybody wins. The soil wins, the birds and the bees win, and we win. So we don't poison the land with chemicals, we grow organically. We also try and work with nature, so that means finding the creatures in wildlife that can bring us benefits and that we can benefit back as well. What we're going to plant now is a little bit of fennel, and that's really in a nod towards that bigger principle. Fennel grows flowers which are particularly attractive to ladybirds and hoverflies, and the larvae of ladybirds and hoverflies particularly like eating aphids. So if you can attract and support ladybirds and hoverflies to your garden by growing a variety of umbellifer plants, in particular things like fennel and dill, sweet cicely, various other ones, you'll attract them, you'll support them. They're beautiful animals anyway, but they'll also bring you benefits by having their little babies, their larvae, which will then come and eat aphids and can help control some of the pests in your land. That's not going to happen straight away, but it's going to start to build a beneficial system here. So we're going to put that little fennel in a nod towards that over here, and in time that benefit is going to start to happen. There you go. Dina, the crazy tea drinker, has also just reminded me that fennel is also a herb, of course, but also fantastic in tea. So obviously, as well as planting it to benefit our aphid hunting strategy, it's also brilliant as a herb and for making delicious teas out of. We're also going to plonk some of these chives in. Again, beautiful, delicious things. The flowers as well as the leaves are edible, and they're also going to attract a lot of pollinators to the garden, which will help us when we're trying to produce the mangetout and the broad beans.
be quite rough with it, can't you, when you're pulling them apart?
Mm-hmm. Right, you ready? Okay, there we are. We've finished the raised bed for now. We've planted up the potatoes, the spring onions and radish as catch crops on the top. We've planted some red onion and some garlic.
And some mangetout and lettuce and fennel, and we've left a space for the kale, and we've got some chives. So we've got lots more to come, lots of tips and ideas, lots of videos coming out soon. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Patch of the Planet, and we look forward to seeing you soon.